It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined today by the one and only Dot, little red Dot, Chelsea.
Hi.
How's it going, friend?
It's going great. You know, I'm fresh off of a D&D cruise, and I didn't get
Lucky
sunburned. It's a miracle.
Wow, that is impressive. I burn so quickly.
Yeah, I definitely took like
toast.
SPF 100 and laid on the beach like a shiny, shiny little white fish, and it was wonderful.
And the games were fun, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Like,
games
really
were a
good
blast.
times.
You know, we played a pirate adventure on the deck of a cruise ship, so I guess it can't get better than that.
Yeah, no, that's kind of spot on for what you want. I can't imagine wanting to live like the life of a World of Darkness character while you play. That sounds miserable.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine?
we played World of Darkness in a heroin, dirty, infested needle, abandoned home. It was great. It really played to the theme. For us guys, it's been a couple. We took like a good 2 or 3 week break there. We had recorded ahead of time. You guys trickled out. You guys listened to the episodes a week at a time. We were like 3 weeks ahead, so it's been a little while. We've taken a breather. And I'm curious, before we dive in, Dot, how you feeling now that we've put some time between the finale and this next little one-off that we're about to record?
It's kind of surreal, right? This whole thing started as an excuse for us to play more World of Darkness together.
Yeah.
Like, that's really where
Yeah.
it started, is us in like a conversation. And we were just like, can we play more World of Darkness? And I was like, we can do whatever we want to do. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what came out of it. And the surreal process of there to now, especially through those horrid lost years of the, great 20 and 21. And so much of that has to do with the support from everybody that listens to this podcast and for whatever reason thinks that we should keep telling this story. So it's surreal in that regard, but it's also it's not the end of things. So I don't feel that longing yet of like missing something. I actually have that excitement of what's next. And that's like a whole other like place to be in. So I'm pretty I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, me too. And to tantalize the listeners, we just had a little conversation about what's coming next. And I think we both really like where it's going to go. And that's kind of where we're going to leave it for now. I think you're going to enjoy it when it does eventually arrive into your ear holes.
Yeah.
But today is a one-shot between myself and you, obviously for Vera. But once again, a Vera in the past. We'll kind of leave it at that. And we just want to say thank you to the patrons. If you guys are supporting us on Patreon, thank you so much, especially as the Patreon has recently undergone some changes. And if you aren't a patron, I urge you to go check it out. Patreon.com/podbynight. We've redone a lot of the tiers there and kind of shuffled things around to make it more of the value for you guys. And it's a great way to support us and keep us pushing forward. It's the whole reason we are where we are right now.
We should talk about the community game, which is like brand new to that.
Yes, that's right. I didn't even mention that. Yeah, on the Patreon, there is going to be a community game that is starting very soon, from my understanding. I basically kind of gave some guidelines to Josh on the theming and what I want, the kind of the main gist to be for the whole thing. And you guys will be taking part as a way of kind of like a background. You guys are going to be vying for your own goals, whatever group of undead you decide to join, or what side of whatever conflict is about to unleash on the streets. And it won't have, impact on like the main arc of things, but you may see occasional ripples of your own actions in the background, or rumors of certain things happening if they decide, if that ends up reaching the ears of our coterie. So that's going to be a lot of fun to just kind of bring it to the forefront. And is it going to be, there's going to be a community game on Twitch? Is that something
Yeah, so it's actually the roles, right? So you put into the Discord what you would like hope to happen, how you want to structure your next like move, if you would. And then Josh is going to host a once a month where you can actually come watch what the outcome of your wants kind of turn into. So there is like a role play piece to it, which is really cool. And the collaborative world building, which is really what it is. You're like helping us set the scene for what's next, which I think is really
you're adding a little spice, a little flavor to our dish.
Yeah, you're our spice packet Patreon.
Yeah. You're our chicken powder spice packet for our 99-cent ramen. I appreciate your support. That's gonna be really fun though. So yeah, please, all kinds of stuff have gotten shifted and new stuff added. So, and for those who are already there, thank you guys again. With that all said, we've got merch. Go to twitter.com/podbynight. Go to the link tree. I almost forgot that. There's just a bunch of stuff. And you can join the Discord for free as well. We have over 100 people in the Discord now. It's nuts. We have a ton of people there. So if you want to come talk, it's free. You don't have to join the Patreon to join the Discord. If you're part of the Patreon, you get a special color to your name and access to a locked room. But that's it. You guys can still come
it's just
and
the blood
chat.
Room, so.
Exactly. It's just the blood room. It's special access to get into that
special access
disaster. Okay, I think I've gotten everything out now. So with that said, let's rein things in, set the scene, and see what Vera is up to. The first thing we hear is a gentle wind blowing across an empty ground. As the camera fades in from black, we see we are street level. A long, empty road with solid yellow lines run past a distance we can no longer see as it bends around trees. A large light is casted down from a full moon as the camera pans up just a bit. And in the distance, lights of New York City. The camera turns, and we follow a car. Headlights in the distance roar up. Tires rush by us with the sound of wind whipping by. And in that moment, we cut. And suddenly the noise of the outside and wind is silenced. And instead, the gentle rumblings of an engine overtake our ears. And in our vision, a profile shot of Vera. Both hands on the wheel, traveling down toward the coast, toward the city. It is the late 1950s. Vera, what are you driving? And what do you look like?
I imagine this car doesn't belong to Vera. Knowing the decade and the time period, I actually imagine she stole this from her sire. This is probably one of his cars. I don't know what a popular vehicle of the time would be. Probably, it's definitely
like a
black.
1950s Buick.
I was thinking a Buick. That's exactly what was on
Buick,
my a black Buick of some kind. Subtle but tinted windows, and definitely nice, at least. And
as the camera fades in, we get that profile shot. We see Vera sitting on true leather seats. We can hear the creaking underneath as she shifts gently in her chair. Not one to often drive herself, but does so quite often when needed, as she's not quite as well known as she will once be in the future. Continue, my apologies. What do we hear on the radio, if anything?
I was about to say, I don't know. Oh, I imagine there might have been something playing on the radio, and because it's the 50s, it's upbeat and, about love and wonderful things. And Vera you see like red painted fingernails long before she started doing long blades, and it kind of flips the radio off and into the seat tosses a file. That seems to be like a profile on somebody, maybe, you're not sure if it's a medical record or a police file, but there's a file she kind of tosses to the side, and on it is an address, and she's very clearly breaking through all of this wind at as fast, I guess, as a 50s Buick will go down New York streets towards
like 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah,
maybe?
towards this location.
But before you toss the papers, what is Vera wearing? I'm curious what her look is.
She is definitely not clad in any vinyl, as it just would not have been of the time in any way. But she's also not entirely on. Yeah, she's not entirely on her own yet. So there's probably a lot of dictation as to what is worn, and I imagine that she is clad in some like 1950s like Susie Homemaker style suit that she's been forced into, or like a blouse and top, jacket. I imagine it's like Gothic Agent Carter.
I love it. So you think she has like the victory roll right up
Yeah,
front?
maybe there's like a victory roll, and her hair's kind of in this like Hollywood style wave, really glamorous. But it's underneath a kind of large brimmed hat of the time, and this kind of tightly fitted, perfect cut suit that she probably actually really despises.
As you build this image in my mind, I have one question. Has she dyed her hair in the 50s, or is she running natural?
Can she dye her hair and it hold?
It would hold, well, that's a good question, technically. It would hold for the night, though I'm sure with some Tremere magic, she could keep it
For a little longer.
an extended period of time. And especially when she goes to the Sabbat.
That's right. I mean, blood was very popular of the time.
It was.
Especially the late 50s as Marilyn was kind of coming into great glamour. She was like new to the scene. But I imagine that you get a lot more if you're a really cute redhead. And so like this kind of big red victory curl, very American sweetheart.
Love it. As America is in their superhero phase. It's still the 50s. There's still a lot of national pride there. The 60s were yet to come, and the LSD fervor that would change everything hadn't hit quite yet.
Yes, Vera hasn't burned the first bra.
No, not yet. That's a beautiful image built, and as that profile shot lingers and we see past her, just out of focus, rushing trees slowly giving way to more and more civilization, that's when we see the frustrated hand fly forward. We hear the clacking of nails on plastic as she quickly turns the knob down of this annoying big band music playing about her, the next love around the corner, over the next river bend, or what have you. And then she hurls the file. The camera tracks and follows the file as it lands with a clatter, like on the leather. Not a shattering sound, it's just my mic making it really loud. But you kind of hear that kind of plop of a manila folder, and a few of the papers spew out just enough. And the camera slowly hovers over it and zooms in. And beyond the address, we see a name. What is that name, Vera?
It simply says John O'Connor.
And as the camera focuses in on the name in a hastily handwritten form, a hard cut to black. Next, it fades. We see the back taillights of the black Buick rolling into a parking lot. As the camera holds and the car gets smaller, it pans up as a large Italian classic building looms overhead. A gorgeous red brick that stacks up 6 or 7 stories, it's hard to tell, with multiple wings on the left and the right, sitting on the harbor. As Vera's car gets further, it's almost as though the building itself swallows her whole. And as that moment happens, we snap cut once more. The car is parked, and we hear the door shut as Vera strides away from her vehicle. She is not at the center of this hospital, but a wing that clearly looks much more modern than the rest. Modern for 1950s, anyway. Its brick is newer. The concrete, a much cleaner white, haven't weathered the amount of rain and torrential weather and snow that New York sees. It sticks out just enough that it's obvious. And as she strides up, a metal plaque sits above the double doors that simply says Bellevue Mental Hospital. And below it, a couple of security guards, one smoking a cigarette, are having a chat. Plain green uniforms with a black belt. Short, buzzed hair for the both of them. They look like, well, one on the left is a younger man. You would guess in his early 30s, with a completely clean-shaven face and short black hair, while the other one is a man somewhere in his 50s. He wears more wear and tear on his face. The wrinkles have set in, and it looks like it looks like he's been working here for a while. His posture is much more relaxed than the younger one. He's the one smoking the cigarette. And he has a foot kicked up against the wall, not really paying much attention to you coming forward. The lights of the parking lot are the only thing illuminating this, as we see Vera walk between them, under one light, into the darkness, next to cars. We see her again under the next light, and so on, until the light of the building itself reveals her. And the security guards both snap their look over to you.
Vera tosses up a gloved hand, because I imagine she has driving gloves or something. Ladies of the 50s still wore gloves. So she puts up a gloved hand and she slowly slides it off her hand and she says, "I'm so sorry. I'm here to visit my uncle."
Now, is awe activated?
Of course it is.
It's free, so you're going to add your not your potence, I apologize, your present score to any social rolls. Are you simply attempting a normal charm, or are just your own personality, or are you going to use any abilities out the gate?
I think she's just going to see what the general vibe is.
Okay. With that in mind, then, so basically you're just going to say, for now, you're just going to be yourself.
Yeah, charisma, persuasion, basic, just kind of keep them
Perfect.
docile to help me.
Charisma, persuasion, plus presence, obviously. Out of curiosity, would you think she has less dice and presence at this era than she does in the modern era?
Well, she only has one in presence. It's actually her. It's actually her celerity that is higher. So
that's right. I forgot. So then, it would actually be exactly the same. And you rolled three successes, and you said you're here to visit.
Pool, but
yeah, you say you're here to visit a man by the name of your uncle. As you actually, I'm going to have you make an immediate roll. A wits awareness roll.
All right.
As you read their reaction to your attempt.
Basic roll. Well, that worked for me. 3.
Wow, beautiful. You have rolled 3 successes. You watch as the younger one stands to attention almost instantly. Whatever conversation they were having, he seems to have dropped, and his eyes lock on you. You see a slight smile, you think, before it dissipates as he looks over to the older man, who seems like you have his attention, but he takes a cigarette out of his mouth, flicks what's left of it onto the ground, steps on it with his shoe, and is like, "Visiting hour's over, lady. Come back tomorrow, all right?"
I would like to kind of bridge the gap and get a little closer. And as I do, I go, "Oops," and I drop the glove. And I go, "Oh, my." And I'm going to bend over. And as I do, I'm pulling 2 knives out of my boots. There are no such things as security cameras anymore, or at this point in time. So Vera has nothing to fear. And as she comes up, she'll make the first attack on this guy. She is on a mission, and there will be nothing that stops her.
As you drop the glove, actually, it's the younger man who takes the step forward instantly, almost before it hits the ground, to go pick it up for you. Feel free to make your attack. Now, remember, you're attacking 2 targets. You can either focus your whole pool on one, or you can split your pool how you'd like.
I think this turn she would want to get the closest one down, because, get him down as fast as possible. So we'll probably do this attack unsplit. We'll use the whole pool on him.
Full dex melee, please.
Melee with the specialty in knives.
Yep.
Maybe it'll be a better roll then. 6. No,
4.
I'm sorry, 4.
Yeah. I was like, I don't see a critical, but
sorry,
4.
Yeah, 4.
And your knife does a little extra damage on top of that. And he is simply immortal. So as he bends down to pick up the glove, what exactly does Vera do?
She bends down too, as if they were going to have that beautiful, perfect 1950s moment of touching hands as the glove.
Yeah. No, please go ahead. No.
And as she gets down there, she pulls the knives out of a stocking or garter, of course, where she's showing a little too much leg.
And as the 2 of them are bending over, we almost hear in the background that big band music that you were listening to on the ride. But as the knives are pulled, you hear the music fade. And as the knife is fully unsheathed, what does she do?
She jams both of them, I imagine, straight up through his jaw, because he's kind of bent over, and pulls his body upwards and kind of pulls them free, and then turns to these other 2 guys.
As you do so, and you hear the daggers rip through flesh, and you tink on bone, not able to get them all the way through, and as you pull him up, his eyes are wide as blood is pouring from the wounds you've just put into his jaw, gurgling. Is all that you can hear for a few seconds before, as you yank them out, you hear the splash of blood onto the concrete. He tumbles forwards at your feet.
Vera goes, "Good golly gosh, I got blood on my dress."
The older man immediately pulls his pistol, or old 6-shooter that the cops would be carrying around that time. And as he pulls it forward, he's going to pull the trigger. Now, You took a surprise round, so we weren't technically in initiative. Are you going to do melee or ranged against him? If you do melee, he acts first. If you do ranged, you both act technically simultaneously, but you get to roll. I'll have you roll first. Because you are technically a little faster.
Right.
You also have
how
celerity
far
abilities
out? How
as well.
far away is he?
Oh, he's only like, I imagine like 10 feet from you, maybe 15 at most.
Okay. So
Within throwing distance of daggers, certainly.
if I see him pull, I'll tell you this: if I see him pull a gun,
Oh,
Vera
he
does
does.
not want to get shot. Yeah. So can she try to stop it? Like get it out of his hand?
You would have make a called shot. You would
Okay.
incur a -2 success penalty.
Right. So I think Vera will use a willpower to add 2 dice to this roll. And then she's going to make the called shot, or she's going to attempt to make the called shot.
We see Vera still slightly crouched, both daggers held wide as both of her arms are fully extended, and as she tilts her head up and says that one-liner and makes eye contact with the older gentleman, she sees him pop the leather strap and pull the metal 6-shooter, about to level it at you. But before he can make many moves, Vera takes a step forward, spins her back to him, building momentum, and as she reaches that third 3/4 of the away spin, just to her side, we see her launch a dagger, sliding from her palm from the wet blood already on it, dripping down into her hand, giving it that much easier of a release. And as it flies forward, it impales his wrist. His arm flies back. The gun hits the ground wildly, sliding a few feet away, and he immediately wrenches over to his hand. And as you watch him, he spends his whole turn holding his hand, screaming at it, as a dagger is completely through his wrist, as he can no longer operate his right hand. Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck! What do you do next? You still have a dagger.
There were 3 of them.
2 of them.
There
was
were
only
only
2
two.
of them.
Perfect,
Yeah, the 2
yeah.
guys were just shooting the shit out
Vera
front.
walks over very, very calmly and goes, "My, what horrible language you have." And I pull it from his wrist and I will do the same move right into his head.
And we won't even have to roll, as he is completely at your mercy. The amount of damage you did to him would have killed him if you were aiming for something vital. And so as you pull the thing from his wrist, and his arm wildly flails back with the force that you give it, in a swift motion, you pierce the side of his head. Is that what you said?
Yeah, just a cranial shot for sure with the blade.
And the dagger essentially does a half arc from his arm to his temple. We're behind the man as the camera cuts after the dagger's pulled from the wrist, and we simply see the darkened silhouette of Vera's hand plunge into the side of this man's head from the back, and then it's yanked out. His screaming instantly stops, and as the dagger is pulled and bits of brain follow with, he falls to his knees unceremoniously before toppling over to his side, also pooling blood underneath him.
We hear Vera kind of sigh and sling the blades clean a little bit, and she goes over to whatever.
You'd hear
Whatever stand
as the
is
blood
nearby,
hits the ground.
That opens the door. She hits the button to the big bzzz sound or whatever, and opens the door so she can go into the main hospital.
As you step in, and the outside almost fall wind fades away, and heat greets your body, the silence of the outside is replaced. You can hear the moans, the screaming, the shouting, muffled, but coming from above you. And as you keep walking on this black and white tiled floor, passing these bare white walls with boring brown steel doors occasionally on your left or your right, with these windows with that crisscrossed mesh in the middle, as you stare through, you see these are little offices or a little storage space. And this hallway eventually gives way to a reception desk and a small waiting room. And on the other side of that reception desk, taking notes on a piece of paper, hurriedly scribbling, is a young woman. You probably put her in her late teens, maybe early 20s. She wears a simple blue nurse's dress with that little white cap that kind of sticks into her hair. And she has Betty bangs as her hairstyle. She has a what you call almost a 50s blonde. That kind of classic bright blonde that you would see on World War II posters and so on. And as you step forward, your steps echoing through this empty waiting room, completely devoid of any people or entertainment. A small radio is playing a talk show behind the desk somewhere. The oppressive fluorescent lights are the only thing that really exist, and you can hear the humming of them above you consistently. She looks up from her desk as she hears you walk in. Her scribbling stops for a moment. And are you carrying your knives openly as you stroll in?
I think as I kind of come in,
hands?
I probably tuck them into my sleeves or something to hide
Sure.
the blades. I don't want anybody screaming yet.
As she looks up, she looks confused and she says, welcome, miss. How can I help?
I'm so sorry to interrupt your evening duties, but security gave me special permission to come in and see my uncle.
You may make me, if you're not using any powers.
Other
just
than
your
awe.
typical. Yeah, other than awe, you may make me your charisma persuasion.
That would be 4. 5, I'm sorry, 5.
She gives you a confused look again, but simply bends down. You hear a metal filing drawer slide open with that clatter that is so iconic with them. She shuffles around. She says, visiting hours supposed to be over, but if you couldn't... she pulls a clipboard out of it and slides it in front of you with a pen. Sign in your name and go ahead and write your the time.
Right. Is she wearing a name tag?
Yes, it says Susie.
No. Isn't that funny? My name's Susie, too.
She actually looks up. She's like, ain't that something?
It's,
Ever since I moved to New York, I've been seeing so many more people, and I've run into a few Susies this past few months. It's crazy.
And I put down some fake name, like, Susie Patootie or something, like super 50s, Susie Patootie or something like that. And I, like, fill in all this fake information as I kind of suss out. I think Vera wants to suss the situation. Like, is there more security nearby? How many nurses?
You may make me a wits awareness, as I imagine... as you kind of fill it out, maybe you pace the room a little bit. There is a door that is clearly locked that she would have to buzz you through, but there's a little window you could look through.
No successes. Oh, one success. I'm sorry.
One success. You got one success, so that's not nothing. So we see you having casual conversation, I imagine, with Susie as you stroll around, slowly filling out the information to see what you can suss out. And as I said, the door is a steel, metal, slightly brown door that has that large silver metal lock that kind of connects it to the piece of the wall that she would have to hit a button to buzz through. But there's a window, and you stride by a few times. The first time you go by, you don't actually see anybody pass there. The second time you go by, you see a couple of nurses kind of come out from 2 different areas and have a conversation before going their separate ways. The next time you stroll by, nothing. And yet the fourth time you stroll by, you see a security guard walking toward the door. And then as he gets there, he turns and he makes his way back. Well, he walks toward the door. He pops it open. He flirts a little bit with Susie, interrupting your conversation, telling her that he's going to get her a nice coffee tonight, extra sugar to make sure it's as sweet as you. And does Vera just kind of like let that happen?
Yeah, Vera tries. She doesn't want him to see her face, so she kind of keeps the hat down. But yeah, she shudders a little under her.
Sure. And actually,
jacket.
as he finishes flirting with her, he does look around and take note. Johnny let somebody in? And Susie just shrugs her shoulder. I guess so. All right. And then he just turns, the door shuts, and he walks away.
As I return the paper, I go, nice fella.
Oh, yeah, David, he's a good guy. He really takes a liking to me ever since I moved. Yeah, he's been my guide.
Yes, he seems a bit sweet on you.
You see her cheeks are extremely rosy at the tips, and she looks away in embarrassment, and she stumbles over her words a little bit. Well, I hope you have a nice night, madam. And she reaches over.
I see. I'm so sorry. One more thing. It was a very long drive from the other side of the city, and I have to use the powder room. Is there one on the other side of the door?
She actually points to the corner, and she's like, oh, you didn't see? Public bathrooms are right there, madam.
Oh, thank you so much.
So it's in the waiting area, and
there is one in the waiting area.
There's one in the waiting area. That's what she points to.
This is an old building. It would not have any kind of centralized heating or air. So we're not.
Well, it's a newer wing.
I guess that's true.
It was built in 1931.
She goes. Vera goes. Oh, thank you so much. And she kind of turns and runs into the ladies' room. The first thing she does is check and make sure she doesn't have any blood on her, because she doesn't need more.
There's a bit on your palms, but not any that were like super obvious.
Right. I like wash my hands a little.
Sure. We hear you turn the metal knobs, the creaking of the old systems as water falls out, and there's a small mirror, but the camera pans down and we see the blood mix with the water, dilute it, and swirl down the metal drain until your hands are pristine clean once again.
Then I put my gloves back on. I'm not a heathen. And then Vera kind of struts out and again looks at Susie and goes, "Thank you for your hospitality."
She just gives you a nod, and she reaches over to a button that you can't see, and you hear a loud click as she switches it up, and then is what you hear on that door as it unlocks.
Vera proudly walks through as she kind of makes it to the other side.
The door creaks as it opens, and then it slams shut behind you with that unstoppable momentum that those doors have, and it doesn't have that stopping moment before it hits the hydraulics. It just wham slams behind you. And as the door slams, the moans and the screams, the random babbling and arguments become much, much clearer. As you stride down the hall, is there anything particular you wanted to do?
Yes, I imagine that there is some kind of... most hospitals will have closets for nurses' jackets and janitorial gear and so forth and so on. Vera would love to toss on a nurse's jacket to make it a little easier to walk about.
Ah, I see. You want to maybe crack into like a supply room or something?
Yeah, supply
nearby?
closet, or like, I don't know if they have like a locker room on site.
As you look through the first floor, this building is kind of structured in a way that is, for those who are not aware, kind of like two magnets faced back to back with a central connecting point. And that central connecting point is where she is right now. You know him to be in the east wing of the hospital on the 4th floor. As you walk through the first floor, making your way toward the east wing, open that door and pass by, you do pass a few little areas with windows in them. And there's little signs next to them that indicate office of a particular doctor or office of this group of nurses. Or eventually, though, you do come across what would be a locker room, because doctors and nurses do pull long shifts at hospitals and often spend nights, sometimes weeks, living in hospital. However, the door is locked, of course. It is a steel door again, a metal handle with a push-down opening mechanism, but as you push down on it, it's locked, and there's a keyhole that would be used to unlock it. Then you've passed a couple security guards, but no one's really said anything to you at this point.
I mean, the worst that can happen is I can't pick this lock. So Vera will reach up in this like perfectly styled hair and pull a hat pin from the hat and begin to try to larceny the door open.
Dex larceny check, please. Would you like to rouse the blood to add dice?
Let's see how we do. Let's just see. 2 successes.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad. As you mess with the locks, I just want to check difficulties, because 2 is good, but it's not like it beats in normal, but not necessarily hard. And these would be kind of more appropriate, like difficult locks to pick as they are of hospital. However, they are 30s locks and not 50s locks. And so, Vera, with a few movements, you hear chick. And as you test the door handle and press it down, it does give way to pressure.
And Vera kind of slips in and closes the door behind her and takes the first jacket she kind of finds, checks and makes sure it's like a woman's doctor's jacket or nurse's coat, and has at least a woman's name on the name tag. As
you stride in, it's a very sterile room, plain looking, with white walls, one clock in the background, a few benches, and a back room that seems to lead to a sleeping area that also is shut and locked, and the lights are completely out. You can simply see bunks labeled over it. And the thing you notice, Vera, as you're looking about the uniforms, is it seems almost every nurse uniform has a female name on it in some way. And so you reach forward and pull the closest one to you, and it says, Pammy. So your name is Pammy for now.
Okay, well, Vera takes her coat off, puts this one on, and quickly slips back out of the door.
As you slide out, the door opens and shut, The buzzing of the fluorescent lights in the locker room merely gives way to the buzzing of the fluorescent lights of this plain hallway and the screams and shouts above it. As you move forward, you actually do come to a point where beyond there is a stairwell. And in that stairwell, a security guard stands in front of. As you see the stairwell, the two of you lock eyes for a moment. And I'm curious how Vera is going to do this. What does she do? Do you simply try to walk by confidently?
Do I get the vibe that he is questioning my presence?
Wits awareness, as you just simply look upon him very quickly in this moment.
Success.
Another man in his 30s. He shifts from the weight on his left foot to the right, and he looks to you briefly, and does it seem like there's suspicion? However, you merely have only spotted each other momentarily.
Right. Vera realizes she's still wearing her hat, which probably looks very silly with his nurses. She goes, "Oh, how silly of me." And she takes the hat off, and she's going to have to lose her hat. Tosses it back into the closet, kind of revealing more of her face. And she smiles and buttons up the nurse's jacket and says, "I'm late for my shift," as she kind of tries to scuttle past towards the east wing.
As you try to scuttle past him and you're buttoning it up, he gives a half grin to the right side of his face, clearly eyes you up and down, and gives you one of those wolf whistles without even minding much. You hear him kind of chew on something in his mouth for a minute before he shoots out a little toothpick, and he pulls it out. "When did you stroll into town, lady?"
I spin around, trying to get just a little bit of breeze in my hair in the stale, dank place.
As you have your own victory roll and you spin around, that hair whips around behind you. He locks eyes with you, and his grin, his half smirk grin turns into a full smile.
"I rolled into town yesterday."
He has a 5 o'clock shadow, not very well shaved, and his hair is a little longer than most men in this era wear it. A little sloppy. Not a well-kept man for the 1950s. And as he pulls the toothpick out of his mouth, he says, "Somebody's actually going to be giving Susie girl a run for her money. I've asked her out to coffee. We had a lovely time, let me tell you. But not my type. You, on the other hand," and he looks you up and down again, "maybe we can get coffee," as he slides the toothpick back between his teeth.
Vera tries to let out a quaint giggle, but it comes out, I think, more as a grunt. "Well, I love coffee. In fact, since I'm so new and helpless and don't know anything, I was hoping that you could maybe help me out here in the locker room. I was struggling to find my locker and get the lock open. It's so rusty, and I'm so weak. I thought maybe I could use a strong pair of hands."
Can you please give me a charisma, persuasion,
And
obviously,
I'm
plus
giving,
presence?
I was about to say, I feel like I'm going to get the benefit here of the stunning, which is a 4 dice pool.
100%.
Adding 2 additional dice. So with all, that's a 3 dice addition. So
Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 successes. He reaches up to his mouth, plucks the toothpick from his teeth, and rolls it between his thumb and his middle finger before flicking it behind him onto the stairwell. You can hear it clatter onto the plastic of the stairs before he takes a large step forward with a huge smile and reaches to put his hand around your waist. Do you let him?
I think Vera, he's a dead man.
I
Vera,
know.
he's such a dead man. Vera tries to, not pull away and she doesn't want to be touched, but play it as a little game, a little flirtatious game that's ooh, no touchy, as she pushes the door open or whatever, again to go inside.
Because you're just going to crush him in the roll. Can you please make me a dexterity athletics check as he makes an attempt to playfully grab you back? Oh my God.
Oh my God, I did roll any successes. I'm going to have to willpower that.
Yeah,
I think
make your willpower
the beast
roll.
is eat him right here, right now.
Yeah, I feel like that might happen. We'll see. Okay.
Oh, this poor guy. Oh God. No successes.
Holy
he touches
crap.
Vera. He's dead.
Oh no. So as you pull away, you basically pull completely away from him, and as the door flies open, you actually hear heavy plodding steps as this man has a bit of a gut to him. And he doesn't get his hand right around your waist, but he gets enough to caress your middle back, and he slides his hand a little too far, but doesn't touch your ass, because just as it's about to, Vera is able to move a little faster out the way, and it just barely misses as he only touches your mid back. And then playfully you hear him go, come here, little lady, as he is going to follow you through the door.
I think, yeah, as soon as he's through the precipice, Vera goes, no, you come here. And she kind of grabs him and throws him against what I imagine is like a brick or concrete wall or something.
A white concrete brick, wall with those large concrete bricks in them.
I think she then slides a knife out and she's going to stab him right kind of in the shoulder and try to pin him down. She needs some information from him. And she kind of jabs it into his shoulder. That's at least the goal.
Okay. And as you grab him, there's as you grab him by the collar, swing him as his feet glide across the tile floor, and you hit that back wall with a thud as his head cracks up against the back. Now make me a dex melee check against 0 defense.
Yep, poor guy.
Poor guy, he's a piece of shit.
He is. Well, I guess that's true. He just didn't see it coming.
No.
5
successes. The dagger slides effortlessly into just under his collarbone and then toward the back. You are certain you pierced the back of his skin as you hear the light tink of metal on concrete, a sound only your kindred ears can pick up. And before he screams, do we see Vera shove?
I think when she puts him against the wall and we hear that tink and she slides the other knife out and puts it right up into his crotch before doing damage. And she says, if you make a sound, you're going to lose the thing that you love most about hanging out with Susie.
There is as the dagger slides in, there is a short but as the other dagger meets what did I do?
You didn't do anything. I'm looking for a man named John. He works here. Where can I find him?
God, there's 4 or 5 Johnnies that work here. What are you looking for?
Shh. It's okay.
You watch tears well in his eyes and start streaming down his cheeks.
He's a janitor.
Oh, fuck. Oh, John, a janitor. I don't know, man. I don't know.
East Wing.
I think. It's really hard to think, okay?
I nudge a little on the bottom knife into his crotch.
I know there's a John that works on the 2nd floor, and I know there's a Johnny that works on the 4th floor. I don't know what their jobs are.
The 4th floor. Is he here tonight?
He's always here. He fucking lives here. He's an inpatient, and he just works as a janitor. It's like a thing to keep him fucking occupied.
All right. What is your name, scum?
Scotty.
Oh, Scotty. Scotty, this is going to hurt, but only for a second. And I'm going to turn his head and feed from him until he passes out.
And as those cries and whimpering gives way, as you turn his head, realizing he believes death is coming, we watch as the camera zooms in on his neck, and we watch the fangs slide forward from Vera's gums and pierce the flesh of this man. Trickle of blood down the neck, but the rest sates you. However, his screams immediately give way to a pleased groan before his whole body, despite the dagger being in it, goes limp as the kiss is given. You drain him until you feel him completely pass out. Are you going to kill him?
No, I think instead I'll drain him till he's just almost at that point of passing out, and I'll drop him and kind of lick my lips and look at him and go, think about that the next time you go to touch someone without asking. And I kick him hard in the face with my heel so he passes out or kind of gets knocked out.
So we see him slide down against the back of the wall. A trail of red blood from his wound now slides down, leaving a gross streak behind him. And as he hits that ground, and Vera says that, we do hear the crack of his jaw before he gets slammed into a nearby locker from the force of the kick.
Ugh, disgusting. And I kind of wipe the rest of his blood from my mouth
and I imagine
as
you
Vera
lick the
slips
wound,
out.
of course.
Yes, of course. And she kind of finishes it off and maybe slips him in the corner and makes him look like maybe he fell asleep or was drunk on the job. And then she kind of slips out the door and hurries quickly, but as quietly as possible, up towards the 4th floor to see if she can locate this man.
As his body gets kicked up and hits that locker extremely hard, with that bang, we cut to the hallway. The door opens from the locker room, and we see Vera, we're right at her feet, foot level, walk out, and the door shuts. And we watch her walk away in her nurse's uniform at a hurried pace, down the hall, and beginning to make her way up the stairs, a small figure in our vision. Next, the camera cuts once more, and we see the number 4 painted on the white concrete walls, and a door that is locked. However, as you pat yourself around, you realize there are some keys in these pockets.
Oh, bless Tammy. And I pull the keys out and kind of like,
as you say that, the camera flips down and shows Tammy. You said Tammy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, her name's... Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Vera goes, never mind. And she kind of looks at it, realizes she got it wrong. Who gives a shit? And she kind of, she puts the keys in until she finds the one that kind of fits, hopefully, the door.
After about 3 or 4 tries, one does turn, and you hear the lock give way to a large, heavy chunk. And as you swing this door open, as there was no window to this one, it was just a plain steel door. You pull it wide, and those loud moans, screams, shouting fill your every sense. As you step in, the hallways are filled with people. Stretch beds crammed into every narrow hallway with people sat up against the walls. You can smell the filth in this place. The person on your right is sitting in his own, while the 3 people on the left down, the woman, she's playing with somebody else's. A couple of nurses seem to be making their way by, quickly pushing a couple of people on the wheelchair. And does Vera can just continue forward?
Yes, I think, she'll have to cover her mouth at least a little bit due to the stench. And she kind of chooses
this place would
not
certainly
to
trigger
take it
your
in.
bane, I think.
Yeah, it's this is, I think, a lot worse than she even expected. I mean, it's behind closed doors, for Pete's sake. So she begins to walk through. She kind of takes in the scene, and she's looking for somebody cleaning, right? So she kind of makes her way through. If there's a clipboard on a door, she picks it up to look more official. She just kind of works her way through the space and tries to blend as much as possible.
So as you stride through, people across the floor and on the bed kind of groan. Some shout at you, words that make no sense when strung together. Other people speaking garbled gook or just shouting. A couple of people at the bed grasp at you and while groaning, but there doesn't seem to be any recognition in their eyes, so to speak. They kind of just stare at you, maybe even through you in a way. As you reach the end of this hallway, it gives way to a small nurse's station that is not being manned at the moment. And there is a clipboard just sat on top of it. And as you pull it forward, it is a list of names, all handwritten, different colored pen, some in pencil, and lots of them scratched out with other things written over them. It is an unorganized mess, and there's only about 3 sheets of it, and they all look like that. But you have a name you're looking for. As you make your way down the list, second page over, that's where you see his name. You have a room number, and it should only be about 7 rooms down. This place splits like this. So 7 rooms down on what is Vera's right hand side.
I think Vera looks at this clipboard, finding what she wants, but also just thumbs through how many people are here. And she kind of turns around looking back down this hallway and seeing the amount of lost degenerates that the world has kind of forgotten. And I think there's actually a moment we watch Vera take that in. And it's a huge deal for her, and maybe something that stays with her as she kind of moves forward into the future, this idea that the degenerates don't have a place. And she feels that so deeply for a minute, and then kind of shakes free that feeling and moves on down towards this door, the 7th door.
As you stride down, you realize the fluorescent lights here are this orange hue, and a few of them don't even work. One of them flickers as you continue walking down, almost giving it a horror movie feel, while we watch her stride further and further to our distance. The people around Vera, you easily estimate on this floor alone, 100 to 200 people, somewhere around there, all crammed in horrible, horrible living conditions. Beyond a locked door at the end of this hallway, you can actually hear, even over everything, desperate screams, pained screams. But your attention is pulled back to your center. You're here for a reason, and Vera is a woman of business and a woman who cares. The 7th room is on your right. The door is open a crack, and you can hear over everything muffled sounds, though it's hard to figure out what they are. Definitely a voice, maybe multiple.
I kind of creep towards the door. Is there a window? I imagine not.
No, but there would be a window because they have to check in at night and make sure nobody's like done anything.
Right. So Vera just kind of peers in to see what's going on the other side of the door before moving it.
As Vera peers in, you see 6 beds in this room. 3 on the right, 3 on the left. All of them are filled, save the one at the back left. It sticks out to you because that particular bed is immaculately taken care of. The sheets are tucked into the sides, the pillow is sat right in the center, and the area around it, the floor particularly, sticks out to you for how clean it is. It's so distinctly black and white while the rest of the tiles are a brown at this point. But that recognition is pulled very quickly as towards the back of the room, past some of the people on the floor, you see a couple of people hunched over a figure, and you see a boot come back, swing forward, and collide with a chest, and you hear you take a minute to try and see if it's who you think it is, and as they move out of the way to take their next hit, you get a glimpse of his face, his 5 o'clock shadow, raggedy brown hair. But at this point, John is in his 30s, maybe 40s at most, and there's still a very young man sat in front of you, being beaten.
I think Vera has the beast rises a little bit in her. This is not what she expected to walk in on. And she, instead of kicking the door in, she pushes it open knowing she's dressed as a nurse and steps into the room and closes it behind her. And she says, "Oops, did I walk in on something?"
As the door shuts and you actually say that, one of the guys kind of jams his boot into his foot, and the other one just kind of turns around while the other guy has fun. It's like, yeah, teaching this guy a lesson. Make your way out of here. We've got it under control. Don't you fucking worry.
And she goes, "And what lesson would that be?"
If you're going to do cleaning, do a good job. He left my clothes unwashed while he took care of everybody else's. He'll never forget that ever again. And he swings back.
What a horrible man. She goes, "Oh yes, what a horrible man. You do look rather dirty." And
can you just shut your lips, woman, and get the shit out of this room? We got work to do, unlike you.
She says, "Yes, of course. Well, as I was told, I guess I should make sure if I'm going to clean up, I do a good job." And Vera, immediately, the 2 knives kind of come out, and she will throw one at this guy that's been talking to her.
Do you want to throw 1 and 1 and split the pool? Because you could get both attacks in that way.
Yeah.
You could always rouse the blood as well.
Yeah, I think she will. She just fed, so why not?
Just curious. Yeah. You don't even gain a hunger. Perfect. The camera snaps back. We get a rear view of Vera. Again, right around foot level, aimed up. The light of the window casting a slightly dark silhouette against the camera. And both of her hands snap to her side, and through the sleeves we watch both daggers slide out as she grasps the hilt of both. And effortlessly, she twirls them in her fingers and slides them forward. They slip out of her hand like bullets out of a gun. And before they can even say anything, the one on the right, rearing up for another kick, the dagger slides through his throat. Piercing out the other side, he grasps up just for a moment before he falls to the side, gurgling again. And he fades before you. The other one hits his chest. He stumbles back a bit, looks down in complete awe and surprise, and reaches up to grab it. He doesn't pull it out. He genuinely seems stunned and confused. What would you like to do as your second round?
I think Vera will then run in, remove the one from the guy's throat, and finish off this other guy.
No need for a roll. We watch you deftly maneuver around the people sat in this room. And as you make your way over, effortlessly, as all part of your movement, you slide down on a knee to pull up the dagger and stand up quickly, slitting the man's throat before he too falls to the ground. And before he falls completely, you grab hold of the handle, and it's his body's weight that does the work as the dagger in his chest slides out into your hand. There is genuine screaming and mumbling. However, it is all masked with the other screams of fear and horror that are happening throughout the entire floor. And before you, lit by the moonlight from the window, lies John in his patient uniform with a black eye and a swollen left cheek. Little blood trickles out from his lips, and he tries to look up at you, but he can't really see you through his eye.
I think Vera puts the knives away and comes over and kneels by him, almost in shock that she's actually found him after all of these years. She says, "Are you John O'Connor?"
There's a heavy wheezing.
Yeah. That's my name. Thank you, ma'am. I owe you.
She smiles a smile of actual kind of joy, a pleasant thing for Vera, even in his state. And she says, "I want to introduce myself. My true name is Titania Volkov."
He just continues to wheeze and tries to look at you through his one not swollen eye.
Many years ago, I loved your father, almost as much as he loved you. I now go by a new name, Vera Volkov. I want to offer you something, John.
He takes a wheezy breath in, and with a little bit of a lightheartedness, he says,
And
I'm all ears.
she pulls a handkerchief, which would be of the time, out and kind of helps wipe some of the blood away, without too much pain, hopefully. And she says, "I'm going to take you away from this place. Everything that you have done for them, do for me. And I promise you, I will take care of you as if you were my own."
There's a small moment of hesitation, but you can't tell if it's simply because he's hurt or he genuinely is thinking about it.
She goes, "You know my truth of both what I am," and she gestures to these bodies, "and my real name, something that is lost to time. I have sought you for a long time, John."
With every effort, he tries to push himself up, not onto his feet, but just to sit and lean against a wall. You notice he makes a point not to look at the bodies. His eyes are either on the ground or on you, even when he sits himself up. So he takes a wheezy breath in and looks up to you, and almost with a jovial tone under all that pain, you hear him say,
Well, Miss Vera, when do I start?
She smiles, and she says, "I can't say that I live a clean lifestyle, but I imagine with you around it'll be a lot cleaner. I imagine you can sew and cook and clean."
he gives a nod.
What I'm not good at, I can get good at.
She says, "Well, if you leave with me now, I have a gift for you. The place that your father stayed below the theater that burned, it's still there. It's yours if you'd like it."
You see him nod as he now attempts to push himself up to standing position. He's like,
She helps him as he rises, and she says, "We're going to need to move quickly. I'll help you."
he nods, and as he gets to his feet with your help, he says,
I'd like that very much, Madam Volkov.
She puts a hand out in kind of a businesslike way, and she says, "You're allowed to call me Vera."
Of course, madam. Yeah.
and he kind of like looks around.
When you're ready.
She kind of puts his arm over her shoulder and kind of helps him up, and they begin to move out. And as they take the stairs, I think when they get to the first floor, Vera pulls the fire alarm.
The camera cuts from when you walk out that room with him initially, And then it's a close-up shot as the camera cuts to the fire alarm next to the giant patent one. We simply see an elegant hand with 2 fingers slide and pull, but the camera holds frame on the fire alarm as the bells ring out. The next...
And Vera, I imagine the doors have to open, like doors that don't
you hear
usually
doors
in this place 'cause
open.
it's a fire.
Yeah. But
and
as
she
the,
takes to the streets.
Yeah, I'm gonna say as the camera holds frame on the fire alarm, and you make your way out into the streets, what is it exactly you say to John?
She says, I'm going to say this only once. I'm sorry for your father's death. It wasn't directly my doing, but I believe that if I had not been there, he would still be alive. I loved him very dearly, and I promise to love you as I can.
The audience and us simply hear him say,
If there was ever a debt owed, consider it paid, madam.
She says, I imagine I'll owe you a lot more before this is all over with, John. The life you knew is gone, and I promise I can give you more.
He does not reply.
And she kind of gestures to the car, and as they get close, she simply says, reaches in the pocket, sheds the nurse's coat, pulls out the actual car keys to this Buick, and she says, can you drive, John?
You hear just an affirmative, mm-hmm.
Good. And she kind of hands him the keys to the car, and for the first time, Vera gets her own chauffeur.
And as the camera has been slowly zooming on the fire alarm being pulled, we see legs run past it as the ringing grows louder and the voiceover fades away. And one of those legs runs by, and with it, we cut to black. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I'll be seeing you in the next one shot. Goodbye.
Hi there, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. It's your dear Vera, and I'm here to tell you that the club is undergoing renovations after a little accident, and we could use all the resources to get us back on our feet. You can help us by either joining our Patreon or getting your hands on an official Stitch of Fate or Drakpack t-shirt by visiting TeePublic and searching Pod by Night. Well, go on. What are you waiting for?